to Texas, y'all. This is the place that A.A. Gill once wrote that has steaks bigger than heads, hats bigger than umbrellas, boasts bigger than credulity, and where anorexia is probably a tropical disease. Sounds about right. The locals certainly seem to like to go large with stuff. And now they can go large with their favourite Mercedes-AMG sports car. This is the Mercedes-AMG GT 4-door. So like and subscribe, y'all. So AMG has taken their 4-litre twin-turbo V8 and fettled it up to no less than 630 horsepower and 664 pound-foot of torque. So that's 10% more power and 30% more torque than even the top-of-the-range GT-R 2-seater. Which, to be fair, the car probably needs because it weighs, wait for it, half a tonne more than the GT. So apparently anti-friction turbo bearings have been used to get the performance out of this car, which sounds like a fairly major scientific discovery to me. I mean, if AMG really has invented anti-friction, overlooking that junior engineer who suggested dipping the whole car in it may not have been the best idea. Or maybe they listened to him, because this thing will do 62 miles an hour from rest in 3.2 seconds, all 2 and a bit tons of it, and 196 miles an hour flat out. Like the regular GT, it's got 4-wheel steering. Unlike the regular GT, it's got 4-wheel drive, 4MATIC Plus. But we needn't worry, because like on the E63 S, there is a rear-wheel drive only drift mode for the use of hooligans, idiots and road testers. So you'll have worked out by now that although this thing is called a GT, that's not really what it is underneath. Rather than using the space frame platform of the 2-seater, which would have probably resulted in less of a practical 4-door and more of a waste of door handles, Mercedes has obviously adopted the MRA platform, which is underneath the regular CLS and lots of other big Mercedes saloon cars. And then AMG have gone to town in the usual way by reinforcing the body in white and doing their usual magic on the axles and the suspension and the brakes and the steering, etc, etc. So this car has its own body in white that's reinforced, not just braced. There's actually metal in this body in white that isn't in any other regular Mercedes passenger car line. And they claim that because the front end is much stiffer and the car as a whole is much more rigid, that you get more feedback through the steering, etc, etc. So how is it on the road? Is it more CLS or GT? Well, it's a good question. I mean, American highways probably not the best place to find out how dynamically precise or involving a car like this is, but as a GT, it's certainly a lot easier to use and comfier than the 2-seater. Easy to get in and out of, the seat's really comfy, ride's really civil and comfortable. It's got bags of torque, engine sounds really good. I mean, if they set out to create more of a GT car that you could use every day and get out of a 2-seater GT and think, yeah, this is the car, this is the AMG I want. It's a bit more like the saloon I used to have, but maybe a bit more special. Yeah, I think it does the job. Whether it's going to feel like a proper sports car on the track later on, I don't know. We'll find out. I have my doubts. So here we are, Circuit of the Americas. Time to find out what this thing's made of. We know it weighs 2 tons, but it's literally got every technology that a GT sports car's got and more to make it handle like something pretty special. 4MATIC 4-wheel drive, adaptive air suspension, active rear diff, 4-wheel steering, every toy in the box basically. Now, AMG says the thing that makes it really clever is the traction control system. So you can program it to be exactly as pointy and rear-wheel drive feeling or stable and 4-wheel drive feeling as you fancy. And it's that configurability, they say, that makes it really special. First impressions are pretty good. I mean, certainly hides its mass pretty cleverly. Doesn't feel like 2 tons when it's braking, when it's changing direction. Mass is really neatly and tightly controlled, and there's plenty of traction. Now, these cars are on the kind of regular Pilot Sport 4S tyres. It is homologated for Michelin Pilot Sport Cups, but they haven't got any. Now, there's no doubt in my mind those tyres would take this car even further down that road towards proper sporting driver appeal. We'll put a pin in that for now. Well, it sounds pretty good, and it stops well. There are some properly big stops on this circuit. Right, so let's say you've been driving this around for a few sets of laps, as I have, in 4-wheel drive mode, with your aids left on, and you've kind of got to grips with what it can do. Performance level, the traction level, your grip level, balance in the car. I mean, it might take you, you know, 10 laps to get there, it might take you 10 track days to get there, but you'll get there, as you would in any driver's car. So, what do? You stick it in drift mode, don't you? Because why wouldn't you? And it's not the easiest thing, the easiest process to undergo, but I've done it, even though AMG probably would rather I hadn't, because I want to know everything this car is capable of. Skids, Mrs. Wembley, it does skids! I mean, in a very sort of simple, honest way, this is a great handling car because it goes well, goes really hard, stops really well, corners really flat. Got a bit of understeer in it because it's a big heavy car, but even in four-wheel drive mode, it gives you lots of options to drive around it and neutralise it. But that's the sort of thing it's great at. Proper AMG. Turn it all off, do a few skids. I know, M5s do this as well, and I dare say Porsche Panameras probably won't, or probably will if they don't already. But to me, it just feels like an AMG thing, doesn't it? Like it wouldn't be a proper AMG if it didn't do it. So yeah, it does it all right. There's plenty of it. And then it gets on with it. I mean, listen to that V8. Oh. Back on the brakes, no bother. I like it. I like a lot. You know what, I started off just with a bit of a downer about this car because it felt a bit naughty and a bit dishonest to use a sports car's identity, you know, to sell a big sort of what amounts to a big super saloon, really. Kind of figured it could never be good enough to drive to live up to that. And it's not a sports car, but for a 2-ton 4-seater, oh, it's pretty great. You know, this thing does all the basics well. It's got great steering feel. It's really progressive. It's easy to drive quickly. And it's a great GT car because that's what it's about, really. All of this stuff on a racetrack today, it's great fun, but it's kind of neither here nor there because a GT does this. What a GT doesn't do is, you know, take the whole family out for the weekend or take you to work all that easily, and this would. And yeah, to be honest, I do wish they'd just called it four-door. You know, drop the GT, it would feel a bit more honest what they were doing here. I'll give this thing 2 decisive thumbs up. There you go. I'll give it a 3 if I could.